Welcome to Timeout with Coach Mike Miller. Coach Miller is the basketball coach with the most wins in LACC history, coaching his teams to a national record of 14 straight conference championships, breaking UCLA's old record of 13. Coach Miller is the first basketball coach in California basketball history to win a state championship at both the high school and college levels. Coach Miller has been honored as Coach of the Year 18 times and has produced almost 100 Division I players. For the next 2 hours, get ready for stats, facts, rants, and your opportunity to chat with one of the most successful basketball coaches in the entire country and his friends. Timeout with Coach Mike Miller.
Hey, welcome to Skidrow Studios and Timeout with Coach Miller. We are live. We are on the air. We are not really on Skid Row, though, are we, Scott? We are Skid Row adjacent.
Yep, we're actually Jewelry District adjacent, but Jewelry District is Skid Row adjacent, so we're kind of adjacent to Skid Row adjacent.
Nice. I like how you explain that, Scott. Yeah. That's why I've got you here. Scott Schultz is my special in-studio guest.
And GPS.
And guest co-host, and he does an outstanding job. In fact, our last show that we were live on the air, Scott ran the show and filled in very, very well. We got some good feedback from your show. We had you in here with Samson Brew, our favorite official, Scott.
Yep, and I didn't know that he was the creator of the Slam Ball rulebook. So I found out something new.
Yeah, Samson Brew. He's a special man, and if he's listening tonight, a shout-out to Samson Brew. Creator of the Slam Ball rulebook and referee extraordinaire.
Yep, he's any rules that occur 15 feet in the air, those probably came from him.
There you go. So as I look over at you, Scott, and I see you sipping on your standard Shack soda.
Yep, actually, this is a new Shack soda for me. It's been around since the original. It's the Blueberry Shack soda, and here you can put it on there.
Okay, let me put it up as one of our unofficial show sponsors, Shack Soda.
And that's actually a really good flavor. I didn't realize blueberry was a good flavor for soda, but damn, it is a good flavor.
Is that right?
And Shack has a funny face, too.
Nice. Well, as we usually do, Scott, we'll have a few introductions before we get into our show. In the sound booth tonight is the esteemed Jeremy Hansen. I think we should give him a big round of applause.
Yep. How's it going?
We're glad to be in studio, Jeremy. We're glad that you're in the sound booth.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here.
We think that when you're here, things go a little bit smoother. We don't know why.
Oh yeah.
Wait. Was that smooth? I don't know. Anyway, things do go a little bit smoother with Jeremy in the sound booth. And to my left is Kevin Jackson. Kevin Jackson gets a little applause. Not quite as much as Jeremy, but Kevin Jackson is a player.
I hear he's a really good point guard.
And
he's going to be eating mushrooms for us today. Stuffed mushrooms.
Stuffed mushrooms?
Oh, no. Yep.
Oh, you think so?
On the camera.
Oh, on the camera.
Yep.
You'd have to pay him a lot for that. Kevin Jackson's in studio tonight with us. And then, as I mentioned, Scott Schultz, my special guest co-host. Scott, it's funny that you've got the Shack soda, the blueberry version tonight, which I know how much you like Shack soda. You're drinking it every night we're in here.
Well, it's easy to grab. It's $1, and it's at the 7-Elevens, and we got that one right on the corner.
Nice. And
there's always someone getting a long-distance Greyhound ticket in there, too.
Okay.
There was a lady catching a bus back home to Louisiana.
Oh.
To Sidell. That's
okay.
Way out there. It's by Port Arthur, Texas.
Nice. Well, what can I say? I mean, you killed two birds with one stone. But the fact that you have the Shack soda tonight, I'm excited to tell you about our first guest.
Oh, I already know. You told me.
Oh, I did tell you. Well, I didn't tell our listening audience.
Yep. Okay. I'll make believe it's new.
Okay,
please.
Who's
the guest?
Our first guest tonight is a special friend, Jim Clemens, the esteemed Jim Clemens, who is currently an assistant with the Milwaukee Bucks, but spent a number of years with the Lakers Coach Jackson
Yep.
and Coach Shaq.
Yep. And he was with the Bulls also, correct?
He was with the Bulls and Phil Jackson and Coach Jordan and Pippen and Rodman.
How many rings does he have?
Coach Clemens has,
Two handfuls?
I want to say 9.
Okay.
9. He doesn't have all 11 because that Coach Jackson has, because for a year and a half or 2 years he was the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks.
Yep.
So he left the Bulls and didn't get 1 or 2 of those last rings. We'll ask him tonight. I'm pretty sure he's got 9.
Yeah.
And 9's a lot anyway.
That's plenty.
Yeah, it's plenty. So he would like to get 10. I know that. But Coach Clemens, they're in Phoenix tonight because tomorrow the Bucks play the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
And so and he and I spoke earlier tonight, and he'll be calling in. Our phone number, speaking of calling in, is 1-800-893-9562. That number is 1-800-893-9562. So we're always up for some good calls.
Sure.
Good calls.
Yeah. Well, we screen them, so.
Yeah. Do you want to define what a good call is, Scott, since we've had some stalkers on the show?
Oh, a good call would probably be having to do with basketball, I would think.
Right.
Or maybe something towards the guests, or maybe even if they want to talk about long distance Greyhound rides. I might even be up for that.
Right. Yeah, I could see someone calling in and talking about your blog. Let's talk about your blog for a minute. Tell us it's long with 4 O's.
Yep, it's longride.com.
Longride.com.
It's got 4 O's in it, and the traffic has just been booming. Every month it's breaking a new record. It had a record day yesterday. It's been getting picked up by a lot of international traffic now. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to get, like, this month will definitely be a very big month, and I'm already way ahead in overall count-wise than I would have ever imagined getting to at this point.
No, and it's a great blog. I've looked at it. Tell our listeners just briefly what it's about.
Well, it's mostly dedicated to long-distance Greyhound bus travel and stories and people I meet on the road. And also I'm going to start including some of my long-distance Amtrak rides and highway, long-distance rides, because I've crossed the country by plane, train, automobile, bus, dozens and dozens of times, as you have.
That's right. You and I once,
minus the Greyhounds.
Yeah, you and I minus the Greyhounds. You and I once took a long half the cross country recruiting trip together, didn't we?
Yeah, that was a decent sized ride.
Yeah, it was decent. It was
Colorado.
Yeah, it was to Denver, right? It was. It wasn't right around the corner.
And then you flew back, and I drove. And I drove the car back.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, but that was okay. I enjoyed the ride, and that was with Kellen Lee.
Oh boy,
the 7-footer. And that's probably the only 7-footer that I could do more chin-ups than.
He was a bad 7-footer.
Yeah, I know. He was very good at getting pomegranates off the neighbor's tree, though, because he could reach right over the fence above the spikes, and he could get that pomegranate off the tree. And I appreciate that. I probably got a good 20 pomegranates out of that. It's like $25.
Yeah, no kidding. He was a really bad 7-footer. I don't remember who put us on that guy, but I think it was Iowa State. But they obviously didn't know what, didn't evaluate him very well, probably, right?
Yeah, they probably just saw the height and stopped there.
Yeah, that's not a good way to evaluate. So, again, our phone number is 1-800-893-9562. What we want to do is we want to cut away to a quick commercial break before we get Coach Clemens on the air. So, Jeremy, if we can run a commercial or two, we'll come back and we'll have Coach Jim Clemens as our guest. This is Coach Miller from Time Out with Coach Miller. I'm here excited to tell you about Medicus Graphics Center located in Los Angeles, California. Medicus is the official printer and graphic designer of Time Out with Coach Miller. Medicus does a tremendous job for any printing need from big to small. Whether you want to print a book or a 4-color poster or business cards, go see my friends at Medicus Graphics Center in Los Angeles, California, located at 2030 Hyperion Avenue. Tell them Coach Miller sent you. Medicus will take care of you like they've taken care of me.
16 made a dream with this basketball. Coach Miller on the court and we going hard. Pass the rock to the paint. I give it my all or be like Chris Paul. Shoot the 3-point, y'all. Look, it's time out with Coach Miller. 14 straight conference championships. We winners. It don't stop from the bottom to the ceiling. Cause all I know is win and we winning. Full focus, we got a topic to discuss. High school, prep school, small colleges, yup. Another special guest today, listen up. It might get a little hectic from the stuff we discuss.
Hey, it's Coach Miller. You're listening to my show, Time Out with Coach Miller. I want to talk to you today about my favorite car dealership located in beautiful Hollywood, California. It's called Gem Motors. Gem Motors is located at 5639 West Sunset Boulevard. If you want a high-end automobile that's at a great price, whether it's a BMW, a Mercedes, a Jaguar, or a Porsche, go to my friends at Gem Motors. They have a beautiful indoor dealership located at 5639 West Sunset Boulevard, right across from Home Depot. Go see my friends at Gem Motors. Tell them Coach Miller sent you and get a special discount. The phone number is area code 323-962-9696. 323-962-9696.
Look, it's time out with Coach Miller. 14 straight conference championships. We winners. It don't stop from the bottom to the ceiling. Cause all I know is win and we winning. Full focus, we got a topic to discuss. High school, prep school, small colleges, yup. Another special guest today, listen up. It might get a little hectic from the stuff we discuss.
Hey, we're back. We're live. We're on the air. Welcome back to Time Out with Coach Miller. We are in studio here, Scott.
Yep.
At the beautiful Skidrow Studios.
That's right. Skidrow Studios.
Skidrow adjacent.
Safe on the inside, little hairy on the outside.
Nice. I like that. So, as I said before we went to break, we're excited to have Jim Clemens on as our special guest tonight, our first special guest. And Coach Clemens is in Phoenix tonight with the team that he is with. He has joined the Milwaukee Bucks late in the summer, and he is excited to be back in the NBA where he belongs. He's one of the great NBA minds out there, and I've had a good opportunity to spend a lot of time with Coach Clemens. In fact, he and I watched a couple games in the summer together and talked some basketball, and I always enjoy talking basketball with Coach Clemens. Coach, you are live on the air. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
It is wonderful to have you on our show, and I'm excited to talk to you in a kind of a different kind of way than we normally talk. We normally talk in a gym, you and I.
Well, you changed hats, so to speak, but let's get on with it and talk basketball and conversate and exchange views and ideas and about the game that we both love and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. We both do love and enjoy it. So tell us first, how are you enjoying living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Oh, it's lonely without my family, but I've got a job to keep me preoccupied, and that's kind of a solace. I don't have to worry about them, and I can devote more time to watching film and thinking about the game. But it still doesn't take the place of your wife and the children. But it's cold right now, and as I sit back here and watch the Weather Channel, when we leave out of Phoenix tomorrow evening after our game, we're heading back to the east with a lot of snow and extremely cold weather. So it's fine otherwise. I grew up in that type of weather, so bringing me back to my roots, so to speak. And like I tell people who grew up in California, back east, when you walk into the gym or it's cold outside, you hurry up and get there because the gym is nice and warm and toasty, and you follow your favorite team, you take your coats off, and you rest them beside you, and it's time to cheer and enjoy the camaraderie of your friends sitting next to you, and you get all that anxiety out of you, cheering for your team and against the other team, and sit back and just enjoy, hopefully watching good basketball being played and enjoyed, and relax for a couple of hours. So I'm enjoying myself. I'm back working. I love to, you very well know I love to teach, and we've got a young team that needs all the help that they can get. And I'm just looking forward to finishing the year and seeing how well we do, and just taking it day by day, Michael.
Well, I'm for those of the listeners that don't know, Coach Clemens, when he said he's kind of back to his roots, he grew up in Ohio, and I know that from all the time that you and I have spent in the gym together and talking about that. And you went to Ohio State University. I think they call it the Ohio State University now.
Well, that's a joke that now listen to me. That's a joke that we had back in the early 70s. And for your listening audience, we used to say when you approach the university, it has on its boundaries. That's what the plaque actually says. It says the Ohio State University. And as a joke, we always say, well, what other Ohio State University is there? But when you reach the borders of the school, on north, south, east, and west, it says, welcome to the Ohio State University. So we just started saying as a joke, and as a younger group has grown now, and we've got a lot of athletes, especially football players, playing the game. And I tell you, it probably came from the guys down in Miami who used to say the U. Right. So they, but we used to say, like I said, we've been saying it since the early 70s. So they finally have embraced it, and it's an in-house joke from those of us that walked across the yard and who think very favorably about going from young men into growing into young adults, and saying that we have a common history, so to speak.
Right. Well, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about we got that kind of that inside information, Scott, from Coach Clemens about why, because I never knew why they called it the Ohio State University. When I grew up, it was just Ohio State. You didn't call it the Ohio State University, at least out here. And so now we got some inside information. Now let's focus. So since we got your mind back on Ohio State, Coach, let's take our listeners back to your early playing career. You had a very, very good college career, didn't you?
Well, I've been very fortunate. I had a wonderful high school coach, and my high school coach prepared our team to compete and to become just good. And once again, to become good players, good teammates, and good citizens. That's the way we were taught, and I had a good foundation, and I was just happy to. And I had a good coach in college. I had a wonderful coach in college, and I was just prepared to just try to be the best athlete, best person that I could possibly be. And I was fortunate enough to, like I said, to have some good people in my life, and basketball, by the things it taught me, teamwork, hard work, dedication, and surrounded me with people with like ideas and who had the same thoughts and ideas, thoughts about how to play the game and how to share. It just connected all the dots, so to speak, and it's taken me a long way. That's for sure.
Yeah, it sure has. Coach Clemens doesn't like to, I'm going to say, Scott, kind of brag about himself very much. He doesn't.
Sure, I can sense that.
He's pretty humble, and I think he's got a man of very high integrity and character. So I'm going to just tell our listening audience or our viewing audience, Coach Clemens, they've got you as one of the top 10 Ohio State basketball players of all time, actually. I think they have you at number 7, tied with Jay Burson, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's interesting because I recruited Jay to Ohio State.
There you go. How about that?
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Who got number 1?
Who got
Havlicek or Lucas?
Well, Havlicek would be number 1. I mean, again, this is, not necessarily my opinion, Scott, or so on, but this is, I guess, sort of like a poll of the Ohio State fan base, I'm assuming. But they've got Havlicek at number 1 and Jerry Lucas at number 2. You can't really go wrong with those two. And Clark Kellogg at number 3, Jim Jackson at number 4. That's pretty good company.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Redd at number 5. And then you've got Neil Johnston and Arnie Rison tied at 6. And then you've got Coach Clemens and Jay Burson tied at 7. Okay. That's pretty good company, Scott.
Well, it's a great university. It's Ohio State.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty good basketball there. So that's pretty good. Now, Coach, you mentioned your high school coach prepared you. You played for Vince Ciccarella, right?
That is correct.
And at Lyndon McKinley, and your senior year, you won the state championship. And tell us a little bit about that year. That must have been special for you.
Well, we had a wonderful group of friends who also played basketball together, and we were state champs our senior year, and actually it was our junior year that we lost in the regionals to a gentleman. People in California may not recognize the name, but he ended up going to Ohio State himself by the name of Rex Kern. And Rex played football at Ohio State. We were the same year, but Rex's team beat my high school team, our high school team, as a junior. And we kind of vowed right then that we weren't going to lose the following year. And we worked all summer long in preparation for that senior campaign. And we would have done it anyway. Mike, don't get me wrong. It was no vengeance. It was just sometimes when you're young and you have goals and ambitions, and we just wanted to be state champions.
That's right.
We thought we should at least gotten to the state finals or the Final Four as juniors, but we felt that we were slighted. I mean, we had a 13-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and we ended up losing the game in overtime. And we just felt that through the conditions that we couldn't control, that through officiating and being homered, like I said, this is our opinion. You can go back and find film, but the game. Sometimes the game you have to be motivated by outside forces, and we didn't blow 13-point leads, and there was some strange. It was some strange and peculiar calls.
That's right.
And it was our motivating factor. It galvanized our team, our senior year, going in, and we lost 2 games along the way, but we got to the state finals, and in the final game, we won our state championship at that time by the largest margin in the history of the event.
So
we won our
what year?
40 points.
What year was that, Coach?
1967.
That's right. Okay, and I know exactly what you're talking about because the story you're telling reminds me. And Scott, my in studio guest host, was part of my program at Los Angeles City College for several years, many years actually, and we had that team, Scott, that lost in the state championship game.
Yep.
By a point, and we kind of felt like we kind of got homered to Coach a little bit there, and those guys really like what you guys did going between their freshman and sophomore years, what you did between your junior and senior years. They were all friends, and they really just buckled down and worked hard, and they just got in their minds that goal to win a state title in their sophomore year. They did that, and they cruised through, and that's kind of like what you guys did. I guess Coach Ciccarella passed recently, right, Coach? Maybe was that a couple years ago?
He passed in 2010 in July. The year I went to China to teach and coach.
Okay.
I was over there for about a week and a half, and I got a message that he had passed. And by just getting there, it was a long journey. The club over there expected me to stay the entire summer, and I couldn't find it in reasonable to just get there for about a week and turn around and go back. But by the time I found out he had passed, word had gotten to me, Mike. The funeral and was like the next day. And he died almost a week earlier, but they didn't know how to reach me because communication and everything. And so by the time I got word, he was already being buried, and so I didn't get a chance to say goodbyes that I would like to have. But he certainly knew how I felt about him, and I knew how he felt about me as a person. So these are things that you carry with you in your heart because the relationship was pure.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good point. I always enjoy, hearing your perspective on those kind of life things that we also often talk about, Coach. We kind of intertwine them with basketball, and they kind of go hand in hand, and that's a great perspective. And I'm glad you could share that. You went on to Ohio State, and when you played, freshmen were not allowed to play. Is that correct?
That is correct, especially in the Big Ten. Big Ten, in those days, you played 3 games against what's considered off-campus competition. And to be honest with you, Mike, I was ineligible for those games. For those 3 games throughout the year, you still had to reach a certain amount of eligibility requirement. And my freshman year, in my first quarter, academically I didn't receive a 2.0 GPA, and so that meant that I couldn't play in those 3 games against outside competition. That was against other schools, but I was allowed to compete against campus competition, and so the 3 games that the NCAA would allow us to play, because I didn't receive a 2.8 GPA my fall quarter, I was academically ineligible, which taught me another lesson about life and about why I was in school to receive an education. And I learned it early on, and so I didn't have to look back. I had to continue to look forward and make decisions that were pertinent to my growth and development from that point on. But it taught me good lessons about people, and like I say, it just made me extremely aware of why I was in college to receive the best education I could, and it also taught me not to trust people to the extent I was naive about trusting people in relationships prior to my receiving grades, and taught me how to deal with people. That it's not always a fair world, and you just have to continually watch your back and be careful who you talk to and what they tell you.
Yeah, that makes
it was a learning experience.
And that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. You know, I think I think though that you persevered and you went on and your coach at Ohio State. Did you play all? Well, you played 3 years then on the varsity team. Did you play all 3 years for Fred Taylor?
Yes, I did.
And he's a legendary coach. Bobby Knight played for him as well, correct?
Yeah, we've got, you know, when people think about Ohio State, they don't think about being one of those storied basketball programs. But if you go back and you look at the people that played at the university, they're all solid individuals. I think that those are the way, you know, coach decides, you know, who to recruit. You stayed 4 years, and you learned a lot about life. You learned a lot about basketball. And, you know, Woody Hayes was there on the football side, and it's a football school. Make no bones about it. Football rules are rules. But we're very happy and very proud of the position that basketball has and plays in the university's history.
Well, yeah, there's no question that Ohio State, Scott, is a football school like USC is out here.
Well, I think of Ohio State, you know, football first, obviously, but then they're across the board. You know, they have champions in every sport,
right,
at any given year,
right, and that's a lot like UCLA in that sense. Is Ohio State offers one of the most comprehensive intercollegiate athletic programs in the country.
Yeah,
I mean, they may offer more sports than any other Division I university. They are really very comprehensive.
I would imagine Stanford would probably be at the top of that, or USC, because they're private.
USC definitely would not be at the top. Stanford might be. The other one that comes to mind would be University of Texas, but I doubt. I think I've read Ohio State has more sports than any other athletic department. You know, it's funny you mentioned Stanford. Our other guest tonight is a former Stanford basketball player, Kenny Brown. He'll be on later tonight in the 11 o'clock hour, and we'll ask him a little bit about that. Jim, do you know? I mean, you may not know this. I know this is a bit of a reach. Do you know? Does Ohio State? Am I right? Does Ohio State have more sports teams than any other school?
I don't know if it has more, but I think they'd be challenged to find another university that has as many. One of the things that I do recall in talking to administrators about the athletic programs, they are very happy and very proud to let other students, athletes, participate. And football does a lot of the money that is made by the football program is filtered down to these other programs, non-revenue programs, to make sure that both men and women have an opportunity to get a wonderful education, both academically and a wonderful physical and athletic education as well. So it's planned that way by the administration and by the trustees, board of trustees, and the president to make sure that every student who wants to participate in a varsity sport, even though it may be non-revenue driven, has an opportunity to participate. And like I said, a lot of the money that football generates, goes to those programs.
Yeah, and that's true, Scott, like at USC for football. Yeah. The USC football supports, you know, a lot of the non-revenue.
I pulled up a site on USA Today. They actually list the schools with the largest programs anyway, total revenue, total expenses, and Texas is number one, Ohio State is number two.
Yeah, well, as I said, I would have guessed that, and I haven't studied it, but Ohio State is just a magnificent institution and really sports driven, right, Coach? I mean, the people there at Ohio State love their sports and they love their Buckeyes, don't they?
Well, they're proud of the university, and hopefully we represent the university and our state and our communities well. I mean, like I say, it's a wonderful place to get an education, and you have wonderful friends, because the people that you meet, I've been out of school over 40 years now, and I still communicate with many of my teammates, and it's just like they're part of they're part of your family, and you grow up sharing these experiences, and you just keep in touch and you say hello, and you don't have to do it every day, because we all have lives that and careers that take us going 1,000 different ways. But there's a line in the alma mater that how firm thy friendship, Ohio, and once you wear the colors and you walk across that yard in freezing cold, you understand the friendship and the fellowship that grows on you, and you keep with you.
Nice. Well, I'm going to fast forward you from, we've been talking about your senior year in high school. I know I'm really dating you here, Coach. And then we've been talking about your college career, which was a great career. Well, just tell our listeners before we move forward, how did you do in the 3 varsity years? How did your teams do under Coach Taylor and the teams he assembled those 3 years you played for him?
Well, let me see. My sophomore year, in those days, we did very well, Mike. But see, in those days, if you didn't win the Big Ten championship outright, under the Big Ten charter, you weren't allowed to participate in any other postseason tournaments. These days, in fact, there were only 32 teams that went to the they call it the Big Dance now, the NCAA tournament at all. And in these days and times, we would have gone to the NCAA tournament all 3 years. My sophomore year, I want to say we finished tied for second or tied for third. My junior year, we were tied for third. And my senior year, we won it. But my sophomore year, Rick Mount and University of Purdue, they've made it all the way to the Final Four, and they lost to UCLA, I want to say in the semifinals. In my junior year, Iowa and Purdue went undefeated in the conference. My junior year, we lost. Iowa won the title, and they went undefeated, and they had a gentleman by Downtown Freddie Brown.
Oh, wow, that's a name. Yep.
And a gentleman by the name of John Johnson. John and I were teammates in Cleveland years later, but they had a wonderful team, and they lost to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville went to the Final Four.
Was that with Artis Gilmore?
Yeah, Artis Gilmore, Pembroke Burroughs, and somebody else. They had a good team.
Yeah, Jacksonville, yeah.
They lost to them. And then my senior year, we were the Big Ten champion, and we lost to Western Kentucky in the regional finals in overtime. So we had good teams all 3 years, but my senior year we were fortunate enough to win. In my freshman year, Ohio State won the Big Ten title, and they lost to North Carolina in the Final Four, and then they beat Houston, who had beaten UCLA in the Superdome with Kareem and Elvin Hayes, and UCLA beat North Carolina. So
okay.
The competition was stiff, and we had good competitive teams.
Yeah, very good. Your senior year, then you missed out on going to the Final Four by just a hair, right?
Yeah, we lost to Western Kentucky in overtime.
Yeah, just barely, out of the Final Four. And Coach Taylor was a great coach, Scott. I mean, he was a Midwestern version of John Wooden. Of course, John Wooden was from the Midwest as well, but
won more championships. John Wooden.
Oh yeah. Well, of course. I mean, John Wooden won more championships, but Coach Taylor did win an NCAA championship, and he was NCAA second place, I think, a couple of times, couple of Final Fours. Coach Clemens almost a Final Four his senior year. Coach Taylor was actually, he built that thing into a pretty amazing basketball program in my view. I mean, I don't think that there was a better coach during that, run that Coach Taylor had there at Ohio State. I mean, there may be some other good ones, some other great ones, but I don't think anyone was better. Coach Clemens, give us your thoughts on that. I mean, Coach Taylor was a remarkable coach.
Well, in those, listen to me now. In those days, now they were the good coaches. The historical coaches, obviously John Wooden at UCLA, Adolph Rupp at Kentucky,
Yep.
Coach Taylor at Ohio State, and those were three of the coaches that if you looked around and you said you had a good player, those are coaches with good names. So I'm quite you got other coaches. You pick them. Coach lost to Cincinnati. He won the title in '60, and then lost it the next 2 years to University of Cincinnati. He was sound. He won I want to say one time he won maybe 10 Big Ten titles in a row or something like that. But he kept a good team, and he was fundamentally sound. I mean, he believed that he could take his and beat yours and take yours and beat his.
Yeah, I like that saying. Now, let's fast forward. We're going to skip the rest of your playing career right now, Coach, and we're going to fast forward to today. You're coaching in the NBA again, like I said before we brought you on the air, where you belong. And Scott, I've seen Coach Clemens work, and I've spent a year with him when he was with the Lakers, watching him work and observing him work, and he's just great. I mean, Coach Clemens is great. He is an amazing coach, and he belongs in the NBA. And
what was China like, though? I found that really interesting. I remember when players were starting to jump over to China, and the name you'd always see as a reference was Jim Clemens, because he was coaching there and had been around the NBA on some great teams. What was it like over in China? What were the fans like over there?
Well, people in China enjoy their basketball, and not only China, but the cultures and societies in Asia. People like our sport.
Yeah,
they're very passionate about it. They understand the game. Put the ball one end of the court to try and put the ball in the basket, another end you try to stop it, and they like the finesse. They like the ballet, the artistry of our sport.
Sure.
And therefore they can relate to it.
Now,
China has 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
And basketball is basically a poor man's sport. All you need is a ball or a pair of tennis shoes.
Now, how many?
And therefore, you have a lot of people that like playing it. Kids grow up playing it because it is inexpensive. They put hoops up, much like we do in our poor neighborhoods, on poles, and unpaved places that can afford it. You have some parks. You may have 16 courts outside, and they're filled all day long, especially on weekends.
Now, how many people are in your city that you were in?
I was in Hangzhou, and Hangzhou has about 12 million people.
Wow! So there must have been some amazing players there, at least from a raw talent perspective. I mean, that's like going into New York, where no one's seen all the players. I mean, that must have been really interesting. Did you see some really amazing natural talents there?
Well, there is, but once you're facing China is a country, is a developing country, and in the sense that young people now play basketball by choice. You go back, let's say, my older players on my team were in their early 30s, and they played basketball to escape being farmers and being factory workers.
Sure.
Young kids now play basketball because they want to play. They're drawn to the game. They're drawn to videos and tapes that they see as Americans dribbling, passing, shooting, and they want to enhance their skill level and their style of play. So they play basketball now because it can provide many of the same opportunities that we're looking for here in our country.
Yeah.
Economic stability, a better way of life, and an opportunity to express yourself athletically.
Sure. So could you see like a future Kobe or future MJ, coming out of China like in the next 10, 20 years?
Surely. Yes. But they're starting young enough. They're getting one of the reasons that they try to entice coaches, teachers like myself.
Sure.
Is they're seeking the knowledge.
Yep.
They want to know how to do it, how we do it, and they're wonderful copycats or imitators of culture.
Sure.
And and we're there to teach the game. We enjoy teaching. We enjoy the growth and the process of watching young people grow and who love the game. So their game is going to expand much quicker than when I was a younger person and basketball was first being introduced to Eastern Europe and countries over there. The game in China is going to expand much more rapidly than the game did, like in those days, Yugoslavia,
sure.
Italy, Romania, in those venues.
Right. Well, that makes sense, Coach, and it's a good question, Scott, that you ask him in an interesting perspective. Now, we fast forward to today, and you're coaching back in the NBA where I think you belong, and you had that year in China that, I remember when you left for that year, and boy, that was you talk about being focused on basketball, Scott. That's all Coach had over there. His family was here still in the LA area. And so it's great that you're back in the NBA and coaching in America again. And I was looking at your team a little bit, Coach. Well, first of all, congratulations. You guys closed out December strong, and you blew out the Lakers here in LA. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. But, the Lakers were a skeleton crew as much as we have been much of the year. And we just had the better team that night. The Lakers certainly still have more talent than we have, but we did what we needed to do, and we played well. And we're capable, Mike, but as we talk about all the time, basketball, you can't take possessions off, and you have to be mindful of the intensity and the energy that you bring. And if you don't bring it, somebody else will. And that's been one of the things that we're trying to preach to our young basketball team here in Milwaukee. Once again, is that you got to bring it every night.
Right.
And you got to be passionate about what you do, and you've got to understand your competition, and you got to be willing to play for each other, and that means some nights you may not be the man, and you got to do other things to make a contribution to the total success of the program.
That's right. Well, you and I have shared this philosophy many, many times that energy, effort, and attitude is not given enough credit. That in fact, these traits are actually skills like passing, dribbling, and shooting. And what you're saying is, what I'm reading into what you're saying anyway, is that your team has to have more energy and more effort on a consistent basis. That it's there, but it's not consistent enough. They're not closing out games the way a veteran team would.
Well, you as the old deacon in the first pew would say, well.
Well, but you did close out December strong. Like you say, you came to L.A. Must have been, Scott, Jim is always humble, as you heard. He didn't take credit for Milwaukee doing, that well, but he said that Lakers were a skeleton crew that night. Well, but still, they're the Lakers.
Sure.
They still wear the gold and purple. They still have the word Lakers across their chest.
They didn't have gold and purple on Christmas Day.
Well, no, they didn't on Christmas Day.
That was like white and white.
And that was white and white. But this was New Year's Eve, and Coach, you guys came in there and you smoked them, and so that made you feel good, I'm sure, just from a personal standpoint.
Well, it did. One of the reasons you play the game is you have to like to compete,
right?
And even if they didn't keep score, which in our business, as you know, they certainly do, and that's why we're professionals. We do get paid to win, but being paid to win also means that you should take a lot of pride in what you do, because when you put the word of the professional in front of your name or along with your name, then that is a statement within itself. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be around this game at the professional level most of my adult life, and it has certainly turned into a career. And if you were a doctor, dentist, attorney, any type of professional you want to name, career-wise, right, being a professional athlete, it's at the zenith. You can't be any higher. And now I start talking about young kids, young people leaving school too early to put a title in front of the name as professional, and they don't have the skill set to be a professional, but yet they're getting paid to be professional, and that hurts that just totally hurts our game. It dilutes everything that we do, because young people leave college, whatever it is, and you don't have to go to college to be a professional basketball player, but it certainly helps to have proper teaching and understanding of the fundamentals that allow you to build a solid career. And I think sometimes the tail is wagging the dog in terms of, what it takes to be a professional, understanding the responsibilities and duties that go along with the title. And that hurts me to my heart, because because once, young kids, young players certainly don't have the skills necessary to be pros in this age and in this culture, but yet they are sometimes the highest paid, and they certainly are the most skilled.
Right. It's Coach Clemens has a great deal of respect for the game, Scott, as I think you can hear, and that comes through. When you say that, Coach, about the young players sometimes being so immature and maybe not appreciating where they're at and not possibly acting like a professional at all times, it takes me back. I don't have the experience that you have, not even close. I mean, I was very fortunate that I got to hang out with you and Coach Jackson and B. Shaw and Frank and those guys, coaches last year there with the Lakers. I really enjoyed watching you guys and observing you guys and talking basketball with you and B. Shaw. I have to tell you, though, I mean, what you said really strikes a chord for me, because I remember Andrew Bynum. And I remember how many times he'd leave practice peeling off in a new car at 80 to 100 miles an hour out on Nash Street, Coach. I just, what you say really struck a chord with me, and that's just what popped into my mind, and just the immaturity and stuff. Not acting like a professional.
Well, oh, wow. I won't say, well, people are going to be people, and sometimes all of us don't act our age, and it has to do with maturity, and we do things that sometimes we'll look back and say, wow, why did I do that? But the fact is that and it's not about being a role model. It's just about just doing the right thing and acting the right way, because this is what is expected of you. And I'm not begrudging anyone or any set of circumstances, but I just believe that there's you should do things in a manner in which it's worthy of who that station and where you are in your life. And sometimes the young players that come into the league, they do have a lot of growing up to do. But then again, they are young people.
Right.
So what do you expect for young people?
Yeah. Well, he was pretty young, and he acted that way. And I guess, I mean, to the credit of Coach Jackson and you and the rest of the staff, I mean, you guys got a lot of production out of Andrew Bynum. I mean, he at least played good for you when he wasn't injured, and he helped you win. And I guess now things have really turned around for him. I mean, the rumors are that Cleveland is going to just release him. I know they've already suspended him from the team.
I heard they were trying to trade him for Pau Gasol.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Lakers doing that, but
salary dump.
Yeah, but I don't see the Lakers doing that. I think the Lakers would take a lot of heat from their fans, and I think they'd have a lot of explaining to do.
It's not that hard to explain. The team's not very good right now, so it's a perfect time for a salary dump.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. But Coach, I guess, Cleveland is that right? Am I right? They suspended him or something like that?
I've read the accounts that he is or he was suspended.
He was suspended for the Celtics game.
Olympic Games. I just saw suspended, and I also read or have heard that there were some discussions between the Lakers and the Cavaliers about doing a trade between he and Powell. But I don't know what comes of it. I've also heard that Andrew's deal becomes fully guaranteed here in early January, and that's one of the reasons they were trying to make a move. But basketball now is so I want to say political on one hand, and so financially consuming between how to manage the salary cap and all these financial concerns. It becomes somewhat overwhelming, but you just got to learn to, it's just part of the business. It's a new culture, and this is what you have.
Right.
You a lot of times, and what we're dealing with, Mike, is the fact that a lot of our time these days is not teaching, but it's player development.
Right.
And we're trying to give young players skill sets that they should have already acquired to reach this level, so that we can teach them more basketball, better basketball, and how to use the skills that they have to just become better players. But the skill sets that are needed to do this, the players haven't acquired because they're quote unquote young players.
Right.
But management, on the other hand, wants you to play at a certain level with the personnel that you're given, who don't have the skill set to play at that level. So you're trying to develop players and teach them and win basketball games at the same time. And it's quite a conundrum that they have us in. And at the same time, your job is once again to win basketball games. So at this rate, the team that wins is the team that has usually, quote unquote, the better talent, because not the fact that they have the better players. They have better talent because you can't teach young players the skills needed because they haven't acquired it yet.
Right.
So it's a mixed bag of where we are for those of us who really love to teach the game and higher than, like, now say when you're in college, you take classes 101, 102, the beginning classes.
Right.
Sometimes you have to go back and take remedial classes. So a lot of the things that we're doing right now is basically just trying to get them up to speed so that we can go to the higher level of basketball and really show how the game can be played at the highest level with the teamwork that's needed to function, the execution that brings the skills and raises the bar, and the ability to just play as a unit at both ends of the floor. And this is where I feel sorry for our fan base, because where we are right now, the players aren't capable of doing it because they just haven't acquired the skills and the knowledge to play at that level that that they can really enjoy the beauty of the sport and how it can be played at its highest level.
Yeah, it's really hard to teach the young players, and especially if they don't concentrate well or if they lack maturity, it's really hard to teach them. They've got to concentrate in order to learn. And you have a young team this year with the Bucks, and again, congratulations on the way to close out 2013 by beating the Lakers really good. And I was happy for you and rooting for you and the Bucks that night. And but it's been a rough road. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. October was rough. You had a handful of wins, I think 3, but much to my co-host Scott's chagrin, 2 of those 3 wins were against the Celtics.
Well, actually, I don't mind the Celtics getting a better pick this year.
Oh.
So, and feel free to beat the Hawks and the Nets, especially the Nets, for the next several years.
Gotcha. Well, Scott's from Boston. Scott's been with me, Jim, helping me in my program at Los Angeles City College for many years, and he's helping me on this show, and he does a great job, but he is a Celtics fan, and I was just rubbing a little salt in his wounds there because the Bucks did beat his Celtics twice in November. And December was rough again, Coach, but you did close it out well. Just if you could sum up where you see the Bucks going. I know they're young. I know you don't have all the pieces in place. How long will it take for this team to become, a very, very competitive? I'm not saying win an NBA championship, but, where you go onto the floor and every night, that you're going to compete and have a chance to win the game. You're not going to show up and just be totally outmanned. How long will it take to get there, do you think, based on your experience?
Well, that's a loaded question, right? I would hope we'd be there at some point in time next year, but the starting lineup that we envisioned putting on the floor this year, we haven't put on at all. I mean, we've been injury ridden from even prior to training camp. Carlos Delfino, who we thought was going to be our starting 3, he's not played 1 minute of basketball this year, and he had season-ending surgery in early December. So he was someone that we were counting on. Our starting postman, Larry Sanders, had thumb surgery, and we just got him back about a week ago. So he's trying to find his niche. We've had, when we get one player back, we get another one injured. John Henson, who's playing very well for us as a power forward and part-time center, has a calf injury, and he didn't even make the trip, and they shut him down for 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll get him back in the next week and a half. And John could be, if he's able to continue, maybe for most improved player of the year, because he played very little last year, and he was leading us in rebounding and second in scoring, and he had good numbers in block shots. So we get another big man back, and we round out our roster, and we find someone who can help us coming off the bench, so our roster becomes more well-rounded, and the chemistry in terms of giving ourselves basketball players that can complement each other at both ends of the floor. and the understanding, appreciation of how to continue to play together and to grow together. That's the biggest issue right now, Mike, that we're missing, is the fact that through the injuries, when we get, like I said, we get one player back, we lose two. And then now you got to find a different rhythm and different lineup, who to play. So if we can just stay healthy and finish out the balance of this year, figure out who are the keepers and who are the true competitors, and then go into the draft with some idea of who we feel good about, and identify which positions we need the most help and support in, and then look for some people to complement these guys, and then I think we'll have the start of something new. But this chemistry that I talk about, and guys who are willing to accept certain roles in order to win, that sacrifice. When you have young teams, everybody thinks sometimes that they're the guy, they're the man, and because they've been this their whole athletic career, they're used to being the one with the ball in their hands. And at the pro game, you can only have one or two of those, and you got to be able to close base shots with the clock running down. You got to know when to move the basketball, when to take it over. So this is the type of learning to play together and chemistry that we vastly need, and we may have the pieces right now, but because, like I say, we it's addition by subtraction sometimes due to injuries. We don't know who we can count on, so we're just trying to figure out who can do what and come back next year healthy, and hopefully get healthy even before the end of this year, and make some runs and have a good summer league, and guys come back next year, and with healthy bodies, a good mindset of who they were at the end of this year, and just look forward to it. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good, healthy attitude to have, and that's why I wanted to ask you, because I know you've been involved with championship teams. I think, Coach, 9 times. You've won 9 NBA championships, haven't you?
Well, it's 10, but who's counting?
Okay. I'm sorry, Coach. I had, was it 9 as a coach and 1 as a player?
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
That's my mistake, because when I was talking to Scott before you came on the air, I was saying I thought you had won 9 with Coach Jackson. He asked me if how many you had won, and as I recall, you left the Bulls to become the head coach of the Mavericks, and you were in Dallas for a year and a half or so, and so you missed out on a couple of those, but you were vitally important to the others, that I know. So the 1 more as a player, so that's a total of 10. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, nice. I was like I say, my rookie year, we won the first one out in Los Angeles. Prior to the one in Los Angeles in 71, 72, all the championships were the Lakers had been in Minneapolis.
Okay.
So we were the one that started opened the floodgates for the Lakers winning in Los Angeles. Okay,
so 71, 72, Scott, Coach Clemens played on that Laker team.
That was a good team.
Yeah. Who was on that team, Coach? I know, but not all of our fans know, and I want to give you a chance to. I'm throwing you a softball. Who was on that team, Coach?
Well, if those who are listening to this program are Laker historians, then the starting center was Wilt Chamberlain. Starting 4-man was Happy Harrison. Elgin Baylor to start the season. The Els retired on us about midway in October. Elgin retired. Jerry was starting guard along with Gil Goodrich coming off the bench. Keith Harrison had surgery, and he didn't join us until after the first of the year. But Pat Riley, Leroy Ellis, John Q. Trapp, Jim McMillan, Flynn Robinson, and am I missing someone? That might be it.
That's
we only had 11. We only had 11 because Keith had surgery, and I made the 12th. And we didn't have that. That was it. We didn't have any extended roster. It was just the 12 of us.
That's a pretty impressive team, huh? When you talk about guys, let's just talk about the NBA. Let's just talk about the Basketball Hall of Fame. How many guys on that team are in the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield?
Well, you can't count Baylor in that because he wasn't really part of the championship run. He was there at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that, Scott. But Pat Riley is in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
As a coach.
Yep. Well, but he's still in.
Sure.
Jerry West is in.
Yep.
Will Chamberlain is in.
Yep.
That's 3.
Yep.
That's 3 teammates that are in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Well, that year.
Now, wait, am I missing someone, Coach? So Jerry West, Pat Riley, Will Chamberlain.
I thought Gail was in. I'm not sure. I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's in or if he's just in the NCAA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Gail Goodrich, he's a UCLA guy, right, Scott?
Yeah, he's definitely in the UCLA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's something that you could look up with your.
Yeah, I could Google search if Gail Goodrich is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so but that's a very, very impressive team, and
well, that would have been right after Russell retired, so that kind of opened the field a little bit. Celtics were kind of in between Russell and Cowan's.
You see what I'm dealing with, Coach Clemens here? I'm dealing with this Celtics fan. It's in the NBA, in his mind, everything revolves around the Celtics. So the reason why you guys were able to win that championship out in Los Angeles was Bill Russell retired.
Well, time has a way of curing all things. So, what can I say? When I was a kid growing up, that the Celtics they owned it. If you wanted Boston Celtics, if you weren't a member of Boston Celtics, you didn't know what a championship ring looked like because St. Louis Hawks won one.
Yep.
Philadelphia 76ers won one. New York Knicks won one. Milwaukee Bucks won it in 70-71. There's not too many teams that won other than the Boston Celtics. So I'm not hating on the Celtics. I mean they had a wonderful basketball history.
I have a question for you, Coach. I've been out in LA now for about 20 plus years. So I even though I'm a Celtic fan, I enjoyed watching Shaq and Kobe play. And I know you've been around some of the great players like of all time. And I always hear Kobe kind of compared to Michael Jordan. But I'm curious who you think was a better team leader, Kobe or Shaq? Because I think Shaq doesn't get the respect that he deserves as a leader. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen play. I think he leads with his style and with his demeanor.
Well, I think Shaq is just a big, not just a, but Shaq is a fun-loving guy.
Yeah, like people just like him.
For the knock on Shaq won't be his leadership. It will be the fact that did Shaq win an MVP in the league award?
Oh, regular season?
Yeah.
I don't know.
For Shaq, like I said, the knock is going to be on him. He didn't with his size, his athletic ability. He didn't dominate the way quote unquote people wanted him to dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but some of that was unreal.
That's why he won't. That's why, and then that's why when you talk about favorites and best of all times and whatever list you want to throw out there, it's a popularity contest. And Shaq was wonderful for us, but at the same point in time, I wish that Shaq had developed other skills too. In terms of, I wish he'd had the jump hook.
Yeah.
I wish he developed a little turnaround J or something that he could have still been able to play after he couldn't have the monster dunks all the time.
Sure.
I wish he had understood the fundamentals through having certain shots that go along with the skill set, because you couldn't get to those monster dunks every time. But when he was on page, man, he with his size and his athletic talent and ability, he was the man.
It seemed like players like to follow him also, like where, like I'm not in the locker room, so I don't see it. But from what I've seen, like, from the living room and all, it seems like Kobe's a little bit more standoffish with the players, or the players might be a little more deferential to him, where with Shaq, he seems like someone that, I would like in my office. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Shaq every day? And he puts up the big numbers. Like, do you think that that kind of gets kind of put aside, when they look at the big picture of Shaq? Like, how was he as a leader? Like, could he get
Jeremy, do we
messages
have
across from, like, say, like if Coach Jackson had to get something across to the team, would he ever rely on Shaq to get that message across just through his kind of charisma and personality?
Well, he's a big, fun-loving guy, and but he understood his role. But he knew when it was time to be serious.
Yeah.
And I say that, Scott, because he came from a military background.
Yep.
And when he has an opportunity to expand upon, his growing up and his childhood, he'll tell you he respects authority. So when we wanted to get a message across, you tell him what you need to get done, and he would follow. He would take it to the hill.
Yeah.
So he understood.
Yeah.
But,
no, he's. Go ahead, Coach.
There becomes a point in time, if you're really a mature person, people don't have to tell you what you have to do.
Sure.
You know what your marching orders are or should be, and you take it upon yourself to go ahead and set the tone, rather than being told what to do. You know what to do, and that's where leadership does become an item on which now, do I have to tell you everything, or now you're a self-starter, you're self-motivated, you're going to take, as my mom used to say, the bull by the horns and go ahead and be the self-starter, the initiator, because you know this is what has to be done, and you can, quote-unquote, assume that it is the right thing, and you don't have to wait until you get the marching orders to do it.
Now, do you think that Kobe has what it takes personality-wise and, his style of leadership? Do you think he has what it takes to actually take a young team without stars, which is what the Lakers are looking like over the next couple of years? Do you think that he has that in him to actually have the patience to help a team grow, or is Coach D'Antoni going to have like a real problem, like over the next 2 years, integrating a young team around a star that is dealing with kind of the decline of his physical abilities?
Kobe is one of the smartest basketball players I've been around. He has a wonderful basketball IQ. He has good instincts. The question is, will he be willing just to yield to those instincts and realize that he doesn't have to do everything to have a wonderful impression on the game? You don't have to be the leading scorer. You don't have to get all the shots. You have to understand now that your presence and your mind can be a wonderful example of how the game can be played and the impact that you can have on a game, and not be the quote unquote the leading scorer. Not have to be the leading assist man every night. Don't have an agenda when you step on the floor other than play the best game that you can play.
That makes a lot of sense. And Coach, the one that I asked you and Coach Jackson when I was hanging out with you guys for that season was one that Scott didn't ask, and maybe we could close out with this tonight, is, you guys both coached Shaq and Jordan. Coach had 6 NBA titles with Jordan, and he had 5 with Kobe. And some of those were with Shaq. I think, Scott, those 5 with Kobe were 3 of those? with
Yeah, that would be three. They had a three-peat with
Shaq and Kobe. So I think the more relevant comparison is the Kobe and the Jordan, not.
I think that's just based on titles. I don't think that Kobe was as good as Jordan.
Well, I don't think so either.
In any, offensively or defensively.
Well, I agree with you, Scott, but it's a question that I think that most members of the media do like to ask. I'm sure, Coach Clemens, you've heard this question many times, and I know Coach Jackson has, is, comparing, Kobe and Jordan, and, you did coach them both, and you did win big with both of them. So, I mean, who better, Scott, to give an answer than Coach Clemens or Coach Jackson? We don't have Coach Jackson in studio tonight. We got Coach Clemens on the air. Let's ask him. Coach Clemens, how would you, you've heard the question many times before. How would you compare, Kobe and Jordan?
Well, they have a lot of similarities. They're both competitive. They're both very skilled, outstanding basketball players. If you had to choose between your right leg and your left leg, which one are you going to take?
I'll take the one that
your
Jordan
right arm
is.
and your left arm. You want both of them.
Right.
If you had two children, which you love them both. So how are you going to decide which one you want? And they're both wonderful athletes. They're both good people. And I've just been blessed to have both of them cross my path, and so I have no preference other than the fact that I enjoyed both of them. Michael allowed you to teach him, to coach him, give suggestions, and he could have been saying, "I already know," but out of respect, he would listen, and then he'd go give it to you. So Kobe allowed you to teach him, but he wants to do it his way. And I'm not mad at him. They're just different people.
Yeah.
But I'll take either one of them 7 days a week.
I got one last question for you also, Coach. Have you ever tried the Shaq soda?
No,
It's really good. I drink it. I drink it every show.
Yeah, Scott, Shaq Soda is one of our unofficial sponsors, Coach, of our show, and Scott drinks this big, huge. Hand it to me, Scott. Let me.
They come only in 24-ounce cans, and they're all variations of cream soda with Shaq's. Each can has a different Shaq facial pose.
Well, I'm going to hold it up to our camera right now for our viewing audience. But
that's the blueberry cream.
This is the blueberry cream. This huge Shaq soda he has, Coach. That he's got. He's got one every night in studio. He's got a Shaq soda. I get to see Shaq every night here in studio.
And don't you smile when you see his face on the can?
Yeah, Shaq to me wasn't a great leader. He was just a big, fun-loving guy who got to have a lot of fun.
But if Shaq and Kobe were both coming out of college, age 20, we'll say, and you were the first pick in the draft with an expansion team, would you draft Shaq or would you draft Kobe?
I'd draft Shaq.
Me too.
Okay, so now I'm a little partial though to Shaq because I coached his brother at LA City College. I coached Jamal Harrison, Sergeant Harrison's son, and as Coach indicated earlier, Shaq came from a military background. Sergeant Harrison was his stepfather, and Lucille was his mother. And I remember them coming to my office, and bringing Jamal. And Jamal we had for 2 years at LA City College.
Yeah, I like Jamal.
And he was a big fun-loving guy too. He just wasn't as good as Shaq.
No, but he was funny.
Yeah, he was.
He was always funny. He not quite as funny as Shaq.
No,
but he was funny. He looked like him too.
Yeah, Coach, I gave Shaq gave us 500 pairs of shoes when his shoes came out, and they were really ugly shoes. And I had them in my office for a long time. I gave Scott a pair, and he wore those things for about 6 years.
Yeah, I lived in them for a while.
So Shaq is a man of many, many talents. By the way, I want to say I think he's one of the best commentators on television on the NBA. I think he's phenomenal.
I like Barkley.
I like Barkley better, but Shaq is my second favorite.
Yeah, he's up there.
and so he's a man of many talents: shoes, cream soda, basketball, commentating on TV, rapping. Sure, he wasn't a very good rapper. Scott.
No, he wasn't a very good genie either in the movies.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But he was a heck of a player. And Coach Clemens, let's be honest. Have you ever been around a player as physically dominating and as imposing as Shaq? I mean, you played with Wilt Chamberlain, but I want to say, and I wasn't around Wilt Chamberlain, but I want to say I can't imagine Wilt Chamberlain is more physically imposing and physically dominant than Shaq.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Let's let Coach Clemens answer that. Coach?
Well, as you were speaking, I was trying to envision how Wilt would have played Shaq. It would have been interesting because Wilt from the waist up was one of the strongest men I've ever seen, and he was. If you talk to Wilt loved track and he loved volleyball. All right, and he loved sports in general, volleyball, track, sports in general, basketball. He one time he was talking about fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world. All right, so he was just an athletic person, and he believed in himself. And it would have been interesting if Shaq had come along during that era, as to how the matchup would have been. But Wilt was pretty damn good.
No, I agree. He was pretty damn good. Yep.
And so it would have been really interesting to see how Wilt would have gone at Shaq and how Shaq would have tried to go at Wilt, because Wilt was also a student of the game. And I don't know. I liked Wilt. I really did. I mean, he's a teammate of mine, and I enjoyed watching him, having a conversation with him. And he had a great mind for the game. So he would have really tried to find, over time, he would have found a way. Because once again, see, one thing to talk about Shaquille's biggest thing was his monster dunks.
Right.
And Wilt had the strength that he could have kept Shaq away from the rim.
Right.
And a younger Wilt Chamberlain could have ran with Shaq. Even though Shaq has very good athletic talent. In fact, I was telling someone about 2 weeks ago. I remember the first time I saw Shaquille as a high school player, and how Shaquille could run like a deer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then as he started getting older and putting on weight, he still had a lot of that mobility and athleticism, but he didn't run like the Shaquille O'Neal I saw when he was 17, 18 years old in basketball camp.
Yeah.
Wilt could run, and Wilt had length, and Wilt had more than just the dunk shot. He had to fall away, he had to finger roll, and so he had more to his package athletically than Shaquille did with just his dunks. So it would have been interesting, guys.
Right.
That's why you have conversations. That's why you have sports programs, because, like I said, on any given day, you're going to find someone that says so-and-so is better. And that's the wonderful thing about sports.
Oh, well, isn't that the truth? Scott, do you have a question for Coach Clemens regarding that Shaq-Wilt mythical matchup that I created?
No, I think actually Wilt would have. I agree with him. I think a lot of the top centers from that period would have been able to handle Shaq, because, like a Bill Russell, a Wilt Chamberlain, Thurmond, probably Elvin Hayes. The strong guys that would probably push him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, but you got to remember, when you push him too hard, it's called a foul.
Yeah, but then he misses 2 free throws, and that's called a turnover.
Good point. But I tell you what.
But I love Shaq.
My question, though, was not who was better.
Yeah.
I said who was more physically imposing.
Wilt Chamberlain was a beast.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Because I think Wilt Chamberlain is better than Shaq for 2 reasons. One, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, Wilt Chamberlain didn't foul out. He didn't foul out of games, did he?
Well, honestly, we had this conversation last night, talking with some broadcasters. I don't ever recall Will ever fouling out of the game.
Wow.
Okay, so
I think that's, and he was very proud of the fact he never fouled out of the game for his size, and but so I don't think he ever fouled out of the game because, like I say, he was a student of the game, and he tried to learn how to position himself. He would study guys' moves and see what in those days. We had the 8mm film or 16mm, and guys watched film, and they played against each other all the time. So you knew a guy's move, you knew how to time it, you knew what to take away. So it was more than just being the physicality of the game. It's the mind and the thought of playing an opponent and figuring out what he's going to do. It really boiled down those days more of a chess match than it does today with all the technology that we have. Guys really understood how to play each other and what to take away, strengths and weaknesses of the different personalities that they met.
It's really amazing that all those matchups with Russell and Chamberlain that he never fouled out.
Yeah, and so my point of why Wilt Chamberlain is better is simply, number one, he didn't foul out of games.
Yeah.
He played. Number two, he blocked a lot more shots than Shaq. A lot more shots. It's not even close.
Players were smaller back then, too.
Doesn't matter. He blocked a lot more shots.
Yeah,
now,
and they weren't as athletic.
But my question was, in terms of the who is more physically imposing and stronger and just more physically dominant. And I do think Shaq was more physically dominant than Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain was a marathon runner and a volleyball player also. So, I mean, fitness-wise, he was through the roof.
Yeah.
And like Kareem, he's a black belt. Fitness-wise, he might not have that, like, you look at him and say, wow, this dude's mega strong.
Right.
But it's also knowing how to use your body.
Right. But Coach Clemens, would you go with my premise that Shaq was more physically imposing and just a more dominant physical presence than Wilt Chamberlain?
Not really. If when you look at Shaq, when you look at the size of Shaq, but then you never met Wilt, and Wilt was like the Eiffel Tower. He just kept going, man. Shaq was both tall and broad. But Wilt, like I say, from the waist up, Wilt was long, man. Wilt was long. And the nickname that he didn't like was Wilt the Stilt.
Right.
But when you saw him, you realize how he got that name, man, because he had long legs, and like I say, from the waist up, he had big arms, and he could jump. Like I say, he just wasn't a tall guy. He could run, he could jump. He had very good hand-eye coordination. So, you talk about physically imposing. To me, there's nothing more physically imposing than a long, tall guy that can run and jump and still got arms, the size of my thigh.
That's a good.
Shaq's always smiling anyhow. That's not imposing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Coach. Well, Coach Clemens, I have probably kept you up past your bedtime. You're an hour later in Arizona. We just got off the road. We played 2 games in Arizona in Tucson last weekend, and I know it's an hour later there because we were on a van, and when we crossed that California-Arizona border, my time changed on my cell phone automatically. So I probably kept you up past your bedtime, and I apologize for that. But when Coach and I just start talking, I know at least I lose track of time. We just talk, and we're just friends, and we just talk basketball. And so I enjoyed talking with you, Coach, and visiting. That was fun for me.
Well, I'm glad it was fun. I've enjoyed myself, and I'm gonna stay up about another hour, 45 minutes, and watch a little bit more film.
Well, yeah, you've got the Phoenix Suns tomorrow, right? Is that who you're watching? Is that your scout?
No, I've got Chicago and Toronto next week.
Okay.
But the East is still open for the taking.
Yeah, but Toronto's playing very well. They've won. They just beat. They won again tonight. I don't know who they. I just saw a score. I won't see that game they play tonight, but I've got 2 other films here that I need to finish up before I start watching film on them next week for our game a week from Monday. But they're playing well since they traded Rudy Gay.
Yeah.
They try to put a good group together that more athleticism, more ball movement, and they're playing well in Chicago. They continue to play hard. They play hard every possession, and they try to do it on the defensive end. And Dang is back now.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get their act together. So we've got an interesting week next week. We've got Chicago. We go home to play Golden State on Tuesday, Chicago on Friday, OKC on Saturday, and Toronto on Monday.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier for the Bucks in this upcoming week and a half or so. But and I will say with the Bulls, they embrace that concept that we talked about earlier, Coach, that I know that you really believe in as well as I. That energy, effort, enthusiasm, and attitude, those things are very valuable. And the Bulls play with those things. I mean, they embrace that. They have energy, they have effort, they have enthusiasm, and they have good attitudes.
And great defense.
Well, that's all part of it. You can't play great defense if you don't have energy, effort, and enthusiasm. I mean, why would you if you didn't have those things? But good luck tomorrow with the Phoenix Suns, Coach Clemens. It's been a real pleasure to have you on our show tonight. And as you and I will stay in touch throughout the year, I'm sure.
Well, I look forward to it. Continued success to you and both your program here and your team that you're coaching. And nice, Scott, talking with you. And,
thank you, Coach.
Keep you on that straight and narrow path, okay?
Yeah, he keeps me in line, Coach. He does.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you being a guest, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay, I'll see you sometime in the spring.
Well, yeah, and I may see you at the All-Star break if you're back in LA. I imagine you will be. I'll try to give you a call at least at the minimum, and maybe catch up for a quick breakfast in the morning or something.
It sounds like a winner as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Coach. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great season.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Well, that was great, Scott. How often do you get a 10-time NBA champion on your show? We're really honored to have Coach Clemens on Time Out with Coach Miller. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with a little more action. Jeremy, run a couple commercials for us. Hey, this is Coach Miller. I'm excited to tell you about my new instructional videos that are on DVDs, produced and distributed by Scoreboard Media out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Scoreboard Media is a great outfit. They also publish books on recruiting and basketball. But what I want to tell you about is to make sure you get a chance to see my post-play DVDs. If you want to become a better post player, score more in the post, and be more effective for your team, why not check out my DVDs? These great instructional videos will really help improve your game. Scoreboard Media is the place to get them at. This is Coach Miller from Time Out with Coach Miller. I'm here excited to tell you about Medicus Graphics Center located in Los Angeles, California. Medicus is the official printer and graphic designer of Time Out with Coach Miller. Medicus does a tremendous job for any printing need from big to small, whether you want to print a book or a 4-color poster or business cards. Go see my friends at Medicus Graphics Center in Los Angeles, California, located at 2030 Hyperion Avenue. Tell them Coach Miller sent you. Medicus will take care of you like they've taken care of me.
Look, It's time out with Coach Miller. 14 straight conference championships. We winners. It don't stop from the bottom to the ceiling. Cause all I know is win and we winning. Full focus, we got a topic to discuss. High school, prep school, small colleges, yup. Another special guest today, listen up. It might get a little hectic from the stuff we discuss.
Hey, we're back. We're live. We are at Skidrow Studios, which is Skidrow adjacent. Really nice to be back in the studio, Scott. I missed last week's show with our team being out of town, traveling. As I mentioned, we played in Tucson, Arizona, or thereabouts.
Awesome.
A couple of games out there, and we actually went out on the reservation, and we played on the reservation, which I didn't know was and is a separate nation. They refer to it as the nation, and they're right. At the border between the outskirts of Tucson and Tohono-O'odham is the U.S. Border Patrol.
Wow.
And seriously, and searching cars and like with guns and, the Jeeps and all that. And it was like, you cross that line, you're not in America anymore. And then what a friend of mine told me, is actually a historian, he called me because I was telling him about the trip and we were on the trip. He said, well, that's why Indian casinos exist. He says, think about it. He says, casinos are not allowed in California.
Yeah.
Gambling's not allowed in California. When you see an Indian casino, that's not California. That's a different nation's land.
Yeah.
Okay, technically and legally, that's not California. And so I thought about it and made sense. I mean, but I had never seen like on the reservation lands that are here in California.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of the Indian casinos out here.
Sure, so have I.
You don't see the U.S. Border Patrol. Okay?
Yeah.
But you do see it going from Tucson onto the nation's land.
Onto the nation's land or exiting the nation's land?
They're at the border. They don't check you going onto the nation's land, but they check you coming back into Tucson from Tohono-O'odham.
Which makes sense because Tohono-O'odham, the reservation is also adjacent to the border. That's unchecked by Border Patrol.
That's a good point. You know what? We had a couple guys that played bad that last game. Maybe I should have just told the Border Patrol that they were illegals and that, they could stay here and come back to L.A. later. Let them sort that out. I didn't do that, but I should have.
Well, it's nice of you.
Yeah.
And you didn't put them on a Greyhound bus.
No, I've done that before, though.
I know you have.
Yeah. Hey, let's go down to the Greyhound station and get you a one-way ticket back to Philadelphia. And you'll have about 4 or 5 days to think about your bad behavior.
Yeah.
You got sent home from a junior college. I want you to go home and tell your friends about that.
On a bus.
On a bus. Okay.
A boss.
Like a boss on a bus. Well, anyway, hey, we've got a special guest who's our second guest tonight, and unfortunately we don't have him for very long. Kenny Brown, former Stanford player, is on the line with us. Kenny, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can. Great. Thank you for calling in. And, we got carried away with Coach Clemens. Coach Clemens and I are good friends. And what happens is he and I get in a gym and we start talking and we lose track of time. And he gets in trouble with his wife. And I get in trouble with my dogs. And tonight I kept him up past his bedtime. And he was scheduled to be on the show for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes max. And he was on the show for an hour and a half. So,
no problem.
But I'm glad that you called in. We don't have a lot of time, but it's exciting to have you on the air. And we're going to talk a little Stanford basketball. Kenny Brown played at Stanford. You have a unique distinction. Scott, you probably don't know this about Kenny. He actually, in a sense, played for 3 different coaches in college. In a sense, he was recruited by Mike Montgomery.
Okay.
Now, you didn't play for Coach Montgomery, did you, Kenny?
No.
But he recruited you and signed you.
Right. So it was the Montgomery era as I was coming in. As I came in, then we had a changing of the guards, and Trent Johnson came from Nevada.
Right.
And that's who I first started playing for. Then during my 5th year, because I redshirted that first year, Coach Dawkins, Johnny Dawkins from Duke, came in.
Right.
And so he kind of got me to stay that extra year, and so I played for him. So, yeah, so there was three coaches there during that time.
Right. Amazing story. And now you're down in L.A., and I believe you're working at are you working at UCLA Medical Center?
Yes, the Harbor UCLA, so it's the county sister. I'm doing a surgery residency down here, oral surgery residency.
Yeah, nice, exciting. Scott, it's nice to see a Stanford basketball player getting into medicine, and I guess I'm going to call him Dr. Kenny Brown instead of just Kenny Brown. I'm going to call you Dr. Kenny Brown. It makes me feel good to say that.
Yeah, it's hard to believe sometimes, but I guess that's the technical term now.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to call you doctor. That makes me feel good. I have a couple of friends that are doctors, and I always call them doctor, and they always say, "Well, call me Doug or call me John," and I don't say anything. I just look at him the next time I call him doctor. I feel like if you work that hard, hey, I have earned 2 master's degrees. I worked hard for my master's degrees. They can't call me doctor for that, but if I know how hard I worked. If you work hard and earn any kind of doctorate degree, even if it's not an MD degree or a DDS degree, but if you earn a PhD or an EDD, you deserve to be called doctor in my book.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
Yeah. So, it's exciting to have you on. We got a few minutes to talk about Stanford Cardinal basketball. One big win this year, I know. They beat UConn at UConn, and UConn was undefeated at the time.
That was a big win, and it came at a good time coming into the Pac-12 season.
Right. Was that a fluke, though? Let's be honest.
No, I mean, I think what you're seeing now is you're not really seeing dominant teams in college basketball. That's one of the great things about college sports is that on any given day, the quote-unquote underdog team can win. I think, maybe where Stanford really came to play that day, where maybe they haven't done that so much throughout this season and really throughout the past couple of years with their new set of classes.
Sure. That makes sense. Now, Dr. Kenny Brown, I want to also acknowledge that your wife is in medicine also, correct?
Yes, she's a nurse practitioner.
And so that's sort of almost like a doctor. I mean, a nurse practitioner, from what I understand, is more than just a nurse, but they can write prescriptions and do things like that as well, correct?
Correct. So she sees her own patients, and she treatment plans for them and gets them fixed up and ready to go. She follows them up, making sure that all the plans are being effective, and prescribes them whatever medicines are necessary. So yeah, she's doing the whole thing.
That's impressive. And Scott, with that in mind, I'm going to give a special shout out to one of our listeners who is a regular listener and I know is listening tonight out in Palm Desert, California. And that is our favorite Nurse Barb. We have a doctor on the show, and we have nurses listening to our show. Special shout out to Nurse Barb out in Palm Desert. Thank you for listening, and she's been a regular call-in guest in the past. And Kenny, let's get into a little bit of Stanford basketball this year. What do you expect out of the Cardinal? Can they win the Pac-12 championship? I guess.
That's going to be very difficult for them to do. I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing the teams that are consistent win. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. It's just that they're consistent. You got teams like Oregon, Arizona, who are just remaining consistent throughout the year. Even the UCLA is starting to is making a comeback after their dip. So I really think that they have the talent to really make a run at the conference championship. However, they're just not being consistent with their effort. And usually you expect that with young guys. The guys the guys that are just out of high school that, can't quite get revved up for everything, or they get flustered by something. But, not with the senior team. We don't really expect to lose that consistency.
Okay. My special guest co-host, Scott Schultz, he's a UCLA grad. Well, actually, he's a LA City College grad first and foremost, and then he transferred to UCLA, and he became the editor of the Daily Bruin, the sports editor. And so, I get a lot of this Bruin stuff all the time here, Kenny. And, the Bruins can do no wrong, according to Scott. But, Stanford's put together a pretty good little preseason run. They were 9-3 going into the Pac-10. Well, Scott, for us, it's really the Pac-10 plus the two mountain schools. I mean,
right.
I'm not going to call it the Pac-12. If I call it the Pac-12 again, will you just reach over and slap me?
Well, I mean, really, once you get 12, it's not even a conference. They might as well just call it a different league altogether.
Yeah, that's right.
If you get 12 schools, you might as well just secede from the NCAA.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, Stanford opens the Pac-10 season with a tough loss to Cal.
Chicken sandwiches.
Was that home or away, that Cal game?
I think that was at Cal.
Oh.
What you think? Wait, was it home? I believe it was home. Actually.
Yeah, I see it here. It was at Stanford, but tough game, close loss. After a really good, non-conference schedule where they were 9-3 and they lose to Michigan by 3.
Right.
Come on. Michigan was in the Final Four last year, so
right.
It's not like they're playing just rummies. So, what do you expect from them in the Pac-10? You're saying that you don't think they can compete at the top of the league because of the lack of consistency, but what do you see for them in the Pac-10?
Well, I see them taking a couple games, maybe taking down an Oregon, maybe taking down a UCLA. I really think if they can get their free throws to fall, they've been shooting not so well. I think during that Cal game they shot 50% from the free throw line, and even worse than that from the 3-point line. If they can get that, a lot of these close games won't be as close. As you know, momentum is a beast, and once you can get some shots to fall, then you can, just run away with the game. I hope that, some of their bigger players, Dwight Powell, Chasson Randall, Anthony Brown, can remain consistent in the double figures. They lost another consistent scorer, Aaron Bright, who had just some early season struggles, but now he's out with the season-ending injury and surgery. So, everybody really needs to step up. But I see them stealing some games. Making maybe, kind of breaking the top half for sure. And then, hopefully carrying some of them into the conference tournament. Not too long ago did they win the NIT championship and had a great run towards the end of the season. And we expected some of that to carry over into the next season, but it didn't quite do that. So, they're very capable of knowing how to win a tournament. And winning a tournament is very difficult, as you know, to have those back-to-back games against teams that you've already played 3 times.
Right.
So they have it in them. So I would expect them to for sure break the top half and, hopefully make a second round appearance in the tournament. And then with the strength of Oregon, UCLA, Arizona, and even actually Colorado, hopefully we can get some respect and get some placements in the big tournament.
Scott, if Stanford was 5th in the Pac-10 behind those other 4 that Kenny just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Arizona, Oregon, UCLA, and Colorado. If Stanford was 5th, are they a lock for the NCAA tournament?
Not a lock. It depends on how many wins they get and how they do in the Pac-10 tournament.
Okay.
But 5 teams in the Pac-10, yeah, I could see that.
There's conferences where you go like the old Big East before they broke it up and changed it. like you said, I mean, they had like 18 teams in there.
Well,
But you know, if you were the 7th or 8th place team, you were a lock for I mean, you were Marquette and you were 24-12. You were a lock for the tournament. You were 7th or 8th place.
But if you're in the Big East, all your games are being seen. And and that's all the ranking groups, that's all the coaches, you know, who often will have assistants or, you know, other people put in their votes for them, and it's the games that they see. And the West Coast is going to consistently not be seen, except for when they have those games, like when UCLA plays Duke at Madison Square Garden.
Right.
But when UCLA plays UC Santa Barbara, that's not necessarily going to be seen. When they're playing Washington State or Oregon State, it's not necessarily going to be seen. And a lot of the schools that are, you know, really good on the West Coast, like your Oregons, you know, people really still don't know them on the East Coast.
You know, what's interesting, that's a great point. I guess Arizona is the one team that, like, everybody kind of knows.
And UCLA.
And UCLA
UCLA.
You see what I deal with here? But
Yeah.
We were the first to get 100 championships.
Right, but you have to be relevant in today's time, is that Arizona seems to be able to recruit nationally and get the best guys wherever they go, and UCLA does not. Okay, so what I'm saying is
UCLA's had a couple Final Four trips in the last 10 years, and a lot of players on the All-Star team are going to have UCLA next to their name on the roster.
Right, I understand, and so I can't win this debate, Kenny. I can't win this debate. But, you know, okay, everybody knows UCLA, but Arizona is more relevant. Let me try to explain this. Arizona is more nationally known in the minds of young basketball players, okay?
Okay, it's possible.
Than UCLA.
I always think of college basketball kind of split anyhow, where you have the teams. And I actually interviewed Mike Montgomery when I was the sports editor at the Daily Bruin about this. But it's the difference in players that come into the programs like your Stanford, Cal, UCLA, Duke, Boston College that have a much higher academic expectation than your Arizonas, where you could probably get in with like a 800 SAT.
Sure.
And, you know, and a 2.5 no matter how you get it.
Right.
But like Coach Montgomery, when I interviewed him, he was like, well, we wouldn't even consider bringing somebody in to play on the team that wouldn't fit in on the campus, you know, because they're not going to be able to handle a Stanford, you know, curriculum or a UCLA curriculum or a Duke curriculum, where Arizona, they don't care if you graduate. Hell, they don't even care if you graduate your freshman year.
Yeah, good point.
They're like John Calipari West.
Yeah, good point. I'm going to give Scott that one. I'm going to concede that one to Scott. Listen, Kenny, it's been great to have you on the show. We're going to have to wrap this thing up. We're running over time here. We're going to want to close this thing out, but let's have you call in next week if you can, and we'll go a little more into Stanford basketball. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Anytime, Mike.
Okay, appreciate the call, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at our game with your wife. I'll talk to you soon, Kenny.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right, good. Listen, it's been a great show. We've had some good guests, and Jeremy, let's close this thing out the right way, and here we go.
16 made a dream with this basketball. Coach Miller on the court, and we going hard. Pass the rock to the paint. I give it my all, or be like Chris Paul, shoot the 3-point, y'all. Look, it's time out with Coach Miller. 14 straight conference championships, we winners. It don't stop from the bottom to the ceiling, cause all I know is win, and we winning. Full focus, we got a topic to discuss. High school, prep school, small colleges, yup. Another special guest today, listen up. It might get a little hectic from the stuff we discuss. Welcome 500 club, we the best, my whole team tough. Close to 100 Division Ones I built up. Dedication and hard work. Step up to the court, I'm like, who ready to lose first? 14 times champs every year earned. Feet to the court, let me get in my zone. Hands grip to the ball, let me get in control. Non-stop, can't quit, that's a winner's quote. I'ma just keep doing me, hear the crowd as they cheer. 18 out of 19, coach of the year. Time out with Coach Miller, listen clear. 2 times a week, listen to me on the ear. Over 30 wins, it was for 4 straight years. First to win state my high school and college career. Over 30 wins, it was for 4 straight years. First to win state my high school and college career. It's time out with Coach Miller. 14 straight conference championships, we winners. It don't stop from the bottom to the ceiling, cause all I know is win and we winning. Full focus, we got a topic to discuss. High school, prep school, small colleges, yup. Another special guest today, listen up. It might get a little hectic from the stuff we discuss. State champs, high school and JC. He was the first coach to do it in California history. Coach Miller, he can beat any team. Got shooters on the court and dunkers dunk everything. He got to win, so the plan is defeat. Been coaching on the court before he turned 18. From 08, going down to 93, he was the conference champs, home of the LACC. Youngest coach to beat 500 teams, 43. Everybody can't do it like he. A coach is something he was destined to be. Now we got a radio show to discuss some things, talking informative conversations. Listen to the real. Tuesday and Friday at night from 10 to 12. A live show, tune in and listen well. Special guests and take audience calls as well.